maybe just moving along to other things. I know another area, kind of my favorite thing in Open XML is all the custom schema stuff that we can do, which more and more developers are taking advantage of in various creative ways. And I know there were several dispositions in that area. There's one in particular that I saw with some XSLT sample to show how to pull the custom XML out of a document, and maybe is that one, talk a little about how that works?
Yeah, definitely.
What that's all about.
Yeah, those are obviously much more exciting because that's more talks more about the future of documents.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. The other stuff, everything we were just talking about is
all the legacy.
Way back.
Yeah,
this is looking.
I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Because all the legacy stuff that's like it's a non-starter if you don't do that, right? Like, in order for our customers to actually our existing customers to use these formats, you have to provide that, right? Like, you can't make this complete breaking change and leave everybody behind, right?
But you're not really going to brag about that. Hey, Office 90 or Office 2007 now can word space like Word 95.
Exactly.
It's not really a feature.
It's not really like a checkbox. It's not something you have on the side of the box, that's for sure.
But custom XML on the other hand.
Yeah, it is. So really the custom XML stuff is all about really shifting this model of what a document is, right? We've been, or a lot of people have been really thinking more about like word processors, for instance, kind of as just this commodity almost, right? Where it's just a digital typewriter, and how much better can we get as being a digital typewriter, right? And really being fixed into that notion of a page model, right? And how does stuff lay out on a page, and everything's about printing. But that's not at all what's exciting, right? That's not what's going to continue to move for us Office forward, and also the standard forward, right? And how do we get this standard to be more valuable? And so all the stuff around custom XML is really about how do you move away from this model of what does something look like on a page, and things on a page and what they look like. That's all about allowing a human to go and look at it, a human who has their eyesight, right, and can go and look at something, and because text is bold, they know what that means, right, or by a table being laid out or headings and stuff. You can go and look at the way that all that information is laid out on a page, and you can really quickly figure out what is all this stuff, what does it all mean, right? But if you're well, let's say you don't have your eyesight, right, and you're trying to use a screen reader or something. It's a little bit more difficult, right, because there aren't really any semantics behind the document, right? It's all about just that formatting. Or if you're trying to write just some code that knows how to go and read the documents and pull information out or push information back in, you're kind of stuck, right? We have all these guys doing this great thinking right around like the semantic web and topic maps, and really just more about like how do you know more about documents, right? Like what is this document about? What's the content that's in it? What's its structure? And so we're really trying to think about how do we move away from just this old model of just the printed page into, the future of documents is, on the web. I consume documents much more frequently on websites and at least on my machine, right, than I do in a printed page, right? So what are the interesting things about that? And one of those things is the semantics, right? Like what are all those bits of data? Like when we go and talk to financial institutions, you get these investment banks where they have research analysts who are paid, $1 million a year to go and write up their evaluations of companies or industries, right? And they have these financial models that they go and use. They make their predictions. All that stuff is all put into a database, right? And so they're able to do quick calculations on that. They're able to make predictions, and they're also able to, that information isn't easily shared with all the other financial analysts and everything, right? But when it actually comes down to writing up their research report, which is just usually a Word document, the majority of that information that they go and write is essentially just this black box, right? Like it's not reused in any way. It's not treated as data. It's maybe like the most exciting thing that they do with it is put it into other formats like HTML or PDF, right? But that's it. I've seen some places where they try and gather data out, and the way that they do that is they have a separate like VB form that the person has to go and fill out with the key bits of metadata on that document that I want to track, and that is really powerful. But if you can imagine kind of breaking away from that and saying like, no, if the document itself was structured, if it had semantic information on it, the research analyst can just go and write the document as they usually do, but any systems that they have in place can now go and pull information out of that document. They can do data validation. They could go, do something as trivial as, imagine if, you're a research reporter, you cover a specific industry, and because of regulations, anytime you mention another industry, there has to be some kind of a disclaimer or something, right? Like, they can automate all that type of stuff now, so they can really make sure that they're following all the regulations, and also really able to use all that valuable data that person wrote down, right? Like, the content in documents is extremely valuable, and really without that semantic labeling, it's really hard to get anything out of that.
Yeah, it's been interesting to me to learn over the last year or two in this debate that there are people who see that as a bad thing to have kind of non-standard schemas embedded in a document or attached to a document. But I think I know you see this, and I see this with our customers here at Microsoft. A lot of people really get a lot of value out of that and see that as the new way to work with documents, so that
Absolutely.
you don't have this world of database systems and separate world of documents that kind of
they've got to come together, right? Like it's just too painful having that there be separation there, right? And even around standards for those things, if you see that some companies do come together and form standards, right? Like you've got XBRL or HR XML, there's all kinds of standards that can come along, but the point of the custom schema support is that from an Office document perspective, we're not going to go and define what the schemas are, right, for business data, right? That's really up to the business, and whether or not they want to go and use a standard schema for their business data, whether or not they're kind of isolated on an island, so they just want to go and build their own schemas. It's really up to them, and we just provide that mechanism using W3C XML schemas.
Well, and
in fact, we have updated the spec to allow for relax NG schemas as well for custom XML.
Oh, cool. Yeah. To let businesses compete and innovate, you can't just have a blessed list of schemas and then go add to that through the standards process. Most businesses want to be a lot more nimble than the standards process is, frankly.
Yeah, and really, again, it just depends on the industry, right? Like sometimes you might have a schema that you create just for 6 months because it's just for a specific project, and then you're done with it and you move on, right? Like it's not as much around the schema as it is just, at a just even higher level, just what are the bits of information you care about in your document that you want to go and act on, right? Like what are the things that you're going to go and use to track those documents, to act on those documents? And if you need to go create a schema for that, that's what you go and do, right?